Welcome to the CV Confidence Coach podcast with your host, Lis McGuire, where she helps you to learn the secret of an interview-winning CV. Lis shows you how to deliver a compelling CV which increases career confidence, optimizes your professional visibility, and opens interview doors. Tune in weekly as she shares proven and simple strategies to help you craft your interview-winning CV. Make sure you head over to www.giraffecvs.co.uk to subscribe for our free newsletter with more CV writing and career tips.
Today's podcast is going to be a kind of audio checklist of questions you can ask yourself to ensure that your CV really is the best it can be. If you think you're nearly there with your CV, then well done. It's not easy getting to this stage where you have a document that you're happy with and ready to send off to your target employer. I realise that a lot of hard work will have gone into getting your CV to this final stage. You're likely to have drafted an initial draft of the CV, left it for a few days or a week, revisited, asked a friend or two to have a look and give their input, and then revise and refresh according to their recommendations. Or maybe you're applying for a job in a real hurry and have had just a few hours to get your CV together in its most up-to-date and professional format. So before you click the send button, what should you check to make sure your CV is the best it can be? I'm going to talk you through a series of questions that will help you establish whether your CV really is ready to send, and hopefully give you some easy ways to shape and perfect the document before you send off to your target recruiter. Here we go. Question 1. Have you written your CV with your target audience in mind? Is every aspect of your CV tailored to the specific requirements of the recruiter in terms of the job you're applying for and the organisation that you hope to be employed by? Targeting your CV does take a lot of effort, but it's well worth doing. Sending a generic CV is the equivalent of white noise to the recruiter. If it doesn't speak to them directly, showing how your skills and experience are relevant for their specific needs at this time, it's likely to be ignored. It's really worth doing your research, researching the company, researching the role, researching keywords, and then tailoring your CV's content to show how you meet those requirements. The format, layout, content and key messages in your CV should reflect the interests and mindset of the person who's likely to read it. Question 2. Who does your CV say you are? A great way to establish who your CV is telling the world you are is to give your CV to your friend, give them a 6-second period of time to have a look through your CV very briefly, scanning the content to see what they can find out about you. Now ask them to lay it flat on the table and describe to you who the CV says you are. What are the key messages that they've drawn out in that quick perusal of your CV? If they haven't found the key messages in this short period of time, chances are the recruiter won't either. Your target audience should be able to easily spot what your main selling points and experience are. The next question I want you to ask is the most important and relevant information for this particular opportunity there on page 1? If the recruiter was to look at the first page of your CV in isolation, would they find all of the key information that you'd want to tell them? Does your first page have a profile? Does it highlight key skills as relevant for this role? And is your most relevant and current work experience up there on page 1 for the recruiter to see at a glance? Another question you can ask yourself is, does your experience section, sometimes called an employment history or career history or just experience, does this section clearly identify the value you can bring? Does it highlight tangible results and quantifiable achievements rather than just dull descriptions of duties? In an ideal world, your experience section should not just read like a staid job description. It needs to reflect the impact you can make as an individual within an organisation, highlighting the results of your actions and how your actions have made a difference to the organisation as a whole. Your accountabilities and deliverables should be factual, concise and clear for each of your roles. Have a look at your CV and check that your achievements are reflective of your personal involvement. I see a lot of people that hide behind what they did as a team effort rather than calling out what they personally achieved and what their impact was. When running through your experience section, and in fact your CV as a whole, you should check that you will be confident in discussing each point at an interview. You may be questioned on any aspect of your CV, so it's a good idea to check that you can expand on the points you've made and explain and back up your statements. Does your CV talk the recruiter's language in terms of keywords? This comes back to tailoring your CV again to the specific role or opportunity that you're applying for. If there's a job advert or person specification, then it's a good idea to go through this with a fine-tooth comb and pick out any keywords that the recruiter uses to describe the role. You should then reflect these back to the recruiter in your CV. The next question I'd like you to ask is, does your CV contain any irrelevant information? Information overload is likely to send the recruiter to sleep, so it's a good idea to cut out anything that isn't strictly relevant to this particular role. Less is sometimes more after all. Ask yourself if your dates stack up. Does your experience section evidence the fact that you've been in continual employment? If you do have any gaps, have you explained them in a concise and honest way? Don't leave your reader guessing. Give them the answers they're looking for. Imagine you're reading your CV as an impartial outsider. Does the tone come across as being confident, or are there any doubting demons lurking on your 2 pages? Your CV should be a confident representation of your skills and experience. Confidence is attractive and is more likely to get you an interview than self-doubt. How does your CV look? Is it well presented, well structured, using a consistent format throughout? And are there any layout inconsistencies that would distract the reader from your key messages? These are good questions to ask yourself before sending your CV. Have you made any mistakes in terms of spelling, grammar or punctuation? Using spell check is a must, but it's also worthwhile reading through your CV with great attention to detail to make sure that you've picked up on anything that spell check might have missed. These kind of mistakes are guaranteed to send your CV straight to the no pile. Finally, have you saved your CV in a format that the recruiter can open? The UK standard is Microsoft Word, and sometimes recruiters will accept a PDF as well. It's worth checking their requirements as to what kind of file format will work best for the submission. Use a sensible file name and make it clear that it's a CV, it's your CV, and perhaps even reference the opportunity you're applying for. If you've answered yes to all these questions, then well done. It sounds like you've done a great job. If you do need any help with your CV, you're very welcome to use our free CV review service. Please visit www.giraffecvs.co.uk. If you are sending your CV off this week for a particular opportunity, then I wish you the very best of luck with your application. Good luck.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the CV Confidence Coach podcast. If you did, please do leave a review and subscribe here in iTunes to make sure you don't miss the next show. Head on over to www.giraffecvs.co.uk to subscribe for our free newsletter for more CV writing and career tips.